Welcome to the Numisphere, a podcast diving into all things in the sphere of numismatics, talking the latest news and trends of precious metals, coins, currency, and more. Let's start the show.
Welcome on into another episode of the Numisphere, where we talk about all things numismatic. And before we even discuss today's topic, I got to ask, Tyler, what's with the patriotic shirt?
Well, we're talking about the Bicentennial Quarter today. What better way than to be patriotic?
Bicentennial Quarter. It's not because of 4th of July coming up, summer months.
That's next week. And by the time these guys see this, it'll be a couple days ago. But
well, I appreciate you keeping in with the theme of the topic of the day.
You don't like it, do you?
Well, listen, I'm just kind of jealous that we weren't able to coordinate, and I'm here with my little paisley shirt, looking into the camera, wondering, am I underdressed? Because that's what it feels like. All right.
You're very much lacking on the patriotic side today.
We're going to improve this communication for future episodes, people. Well, nonetheless, I think that keeping with the theme of patriotism, what more patriotic than a 1976 Bicentennial Quarter?
I can think of a few things.
This has got to be one of the most common coins that is brought into the shop. We see it on a regular basis with pretty much all collections. Boomers kept them aside, right? Because this was celebrating the bicentennial.
Right.
Now, what people don't understand about this coin, just generically, we're not talking about any special type, right, of the 1976, but these were made for 2 years.
Yeah, so in an effort to prevent hoarding,
right,
they decided that they would produce it both in 75 and 76.
So we had 2 consistent years where the mint was running off the same quarter.
Yeah.
So this is like the quarter that has double the
population.
population.
It is the super rarest quarter in the United States.
But it is super rare, right? At least everybody thinks so.
Well, so oddly enough, just yesterday, Google Alerts pops up on my phone, and it says, Bicentennial Quarter worth $2 million.
$2 million.
And I looked at it and I said, Google, I am just disappointed. These AI-generated articles and information kicking around, it's all crap.
Yeah.
Show me a $2 million 1976 Bicentennial Quarter.
Yeah, and if you can't notice, we have a slight sense of sarcasm when we're talking about how precious this is, because it's commonly misunderstood to be very rare by customers who come in inquiring about the value of these things. It's somewhat of a conversation amongst dealers about the frustration that comes out.
It's a flat-out running joke.
With every new wave of the variety being advertised on other platforms out there, TikTok or Instagram or wherever they might be finding
I think there's
info.
one particular content creator on TikTok that...
We don't need to point fingers.
He tends to exacerbate these falsehoods and create a sense of false hope.
Maybe, but he definitely keeps people interested in the hobby, I have to say.
Oh, his stuff's great. I usually have no issues. Right. But creating this hype behind a coin that everybody in the industry knows that 99% of them are worth a quarter.
Right.
It's harmful. Right, and honestly, it takes a lot of our time, and it kind of sucks.
And maybe people need to understand how that can be harmful, right? Number one, people are focusing on getting the wrong things, so they're not exactly helping themselves out by looking for the things that actually are rare. But another sense of that is the broken heart syndrome of the customer. Now, there's several different levels of this, but when a customer comes in with high hopes on the value of their 1976 Bicentennial Quarter, it's kind of heartbreaking when you deliver to them that they have just a common 25-cent face value coin.
So those customers tend to go one of two ways, right? It's, oh, okay, that's really disappointing. And the other is, no, you're wrong.
Right. And okay, so we've had that as well. And as you can imagine, that can escalate in testosterone levels in the shop. And become situations where people are actually upset that we're not recognizing the value of their 1976 Bicentennial Quarter.
Right.
But we want to help the community, right? We want to clear some things up. And Tyler, let's clear it up. What is the value in a 1976 Bicentennial Quarter?
Well, first off, the majority of them that are out there are the Philadelphia minted ones. I hate to tell you, if it's a circulated clad, just spend it. It's a quarter. Okay? But there are a handful of examples that are definitely worth a pretty good value, right? I mean, there's some known examples that have caught almost nearly 20,000.
Okay.
It's not 2 million, right?
Okay.
And this was a one-off. So because this particular one had a pedigree that associated to the Hansen collection, it sold for $19,200.
Tyler, that was a lot of words for the people out there in our audience all at once. You just dropped some vocabulary here. We talked about pedigree.
Yes. So when a coin is associated with a particular collector or collection, it gains a pedigree, right? So it's the association to that collection.
Okay.
So this one was for the Hansen collection.
Was from the Hansen collection to give it a specific pedigree.
Yep.
And it was it a top pop in its
So there was 3
grade?
in that grade, which I think I have here. It was an MS69.
An MS69. So that is the top grade. There's no others that are higher than an MS69.
Yeah, there's 3 that were graded there.
Okay.
And another one of them sold for a few $1,000s less, or actually like 30% less, give or take.
Okay.
But that did not have a pedigree.
So the number one record out there for the sale of one of these was in...
It was a 76S,
Yep.
40% silver,
Yep.
with the Hansen collection pedigree
Okay.
in 69.
Yep. Okay. So this is a one-off, very rare occurrence. Matter of fact, because the collection is so limited, they're probably only going to see X amount ever.
Right. Now, I can guarantee that people are going to view this and be like, oh, you guys are wrong. You're leaving stuff out. Yes, we understand there are particular errors that are one of 1, 1 of 3 that have achieved some higher prices. But we're really not accounting for those super rare mistakes. Like one of them was on a dime planchet.
Yeah.
One ended up on an Eisenhower.
Yeah. So the wrong planchets are definitely unique one-off coins.
Right.
But the probability of finding one like it is very rare because that actually happens when the coin is lodged into another die, correct?
I mean, there's a few ways, but yeah, that's typically the way.
Some
that
other
one got
coin
stuck,
migrates
a
into the
transition.
die, and then they come down, and you see parts of both. So it's a very unique occurrence inside of the minting process.
Right, and that's the super ultra rare stuff that particular content creators are allowing people to think that, hey, all of your quarters are going to be worth, well, not all, but you have the opportunity to achieve that type of value, and you really don't.
So, but there is, I mean, there's a variety, right? So we talked about heirs, but there's registered varieties within the 1976.
The 76D, yeah.
76D, okay. So in the 1976 Denver, there are...
Right, depending on what grading company you're looking at, right?
Okay.
So if you're looking at PCGS, there's the DDO FS101, and then there's the DDO FS102, which is some doubling on the obverse side, if I'm not mistaken, in Liberty.
Okay.
That sound right?
Yeah, I think it was the FS301.
I think it was 101, 102.
Was it 101?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, whichever it might have been.
We'll find out
those
later.
Two, I do know this. The trend actually was just in the Liberty. So they were both in Denver, and they were within the Liberty.
Yep.
And you could see in the FS101, it was pretty blatant, the doubling that was happening inside of the Liberty. But on the second variation, that doubling was almost like a belling out or a flaring out on the bottom of the font for the Liberty itself.
And if I'm not mistaken, there was one.
In the population.
One. The highest pop. So it sold May of last year in NGC MS66 for $8,400. And there was only one of them. And that, if I'm not mistaken, was the 101 era.
Okay. Wow. So, I mean, this is what they should be looking out for. If anything, look at the Liberty. So first off, check to see if you have a D. Look at the Liberty. If you can identify doubling or you're suspicious of doubling, you may have something. The chances of this is very unlikely.
Like all things, it's a hunt, right? That's why it's valuable, because it is so rare.
Right.
Granted, registered errors like the ones that we're discussing here, or standard grades or straight grades, they do have the opportunity to be more than a quarter, right? But the odds of having something that's worth 2 million, like Google News says, really is not the case.
Gotcha. So, I mean, realistically, check for the variety. If you don't have that variety and you don't have a specimen that'll 69 or better, you're not going to have something on your hands that's worth a large amount of money. It's probably easier to spend it than it is to sell it off to a coin
And if
dealer.
it's a Philadelphia mint, just spend it. Don't even waste time.
Correct. Yes, this is very important. It's also very important to take the information that we're learning through these different platforms and that we're being exposed to and trying to find confirmation through things like reliable resources. There's so many resources out there that are put forward by things like these grading companies. PCGS
So not just the companies too, actually. I mean, Wexler even mentions.
I wanted to mention
such
Wexler.
as the extra finger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
So Wexler is a unique catalog of varieties that have been proven and recorded that sit outside of the box of the registered varieties that are identified by the standard grading companies. And it's a great resource, extremely detailed. I'd encourage any coin collector out there who's interested in heirs to browse through. Now, it is a low-budget scheme, but the amount of information and the information that is, or the content that is in there is really priceless. So great resources
he does a great
like that.
job with nice photos, explains what they are. Fantastic. I would say hands down, that's probably a better error resource and variety resource than any of the grading companies.
Absolutely. I know that I fall on it quite a bit when we're doing research here in the shop.
Especially if you're into Lincoln Cents or even the Wheat Cents or Indian Heads. Phenomenal resource.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, if you you have a thicker wallet or you're fortunate enough to have gobbled up the Cherry Picker's Guide from the Red Book, or it's Whitman who puts that out.
Yeah.
Correct? They do have a new series that's coming out. It's missing a volume, to my understanding.
Yeah, there's, we'll just say, some conflict going on about how it was all released.
Okay.
So they're slowly working through it all and getting new volumes back out.
And the newer edition of this book is coming out. But if you're lucky enough to get your hands on the older version, it'll set you back a few $100s. It is in a 3-volume series. This is definitely a great resource. If you have anybody who has this resource and you're able to encounter it, snap pictures, keep it for your own records. It'll help you for identification of registered heirs in the future.
Yeah.
I want to put that out there for our audience, you know. It helps. I mean, being educated about your hobby is paramount. You don't want to sound like a fool, and you also don't want to control or have you be controlled by your emotions, right? Our hopes will always put that this is a very valuable coin in our mind, and we take that with us. But it's important for us to go through those checks and balances, bring them back to the resources, and if you're still puzzled or you truly feel as though you may have a double die, bring it on down to your local coin shop, let them review it, let them confirm it for you.
Or send it in.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we
Once
had
you've
a
done your
gentleman-
basic research, then send it in.
We had a gentleman today, I think, came through the shop, and he brought in a missing clad reverse 1978 Roosevelt dime.
Yep.
And he was describing it to me. He was giving me pictures. I let him know that there was only a few ways that we could authenticate this, making sure that we measure what it was for the composition of the metal on both the obverse and the reverse with our XRF. And then secondly, taking the weight and comparing that against the registered weight. I think it clocked in at something like 1.92 grams. It was supposed to be 2.27. Just that weight differential alone allowed us to confirm that that coin was actually missing the clad on the reverse of it.
And it was absolutely struck properly on the reverse.
I mean, the unique things like that, you have questions about them coming into the shop, we can help you confirm those things. And we can also help you figure out whether it's worth getting certified or not, or maybe it just needs to sit in your collection as is. Because when you find those heirs, they actually come through your hands, you get kind of attached to them sentimentally.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, you do.
But I will say, though, do not take this as an invitation to blast us with an absurd amount of coins that, hey, what's this, what's that? Sorry, we're not so much into that, okay? But I know someone out there is going to see this and tell us, there's so many more errors on the Bicentennial. I want to see those.
Yeah.
Put those in the comments. Send us some photos. Hop on the website. Email us. I want to check those out.
Absolutely.
Because although it's been around for a while, there always could be that next opportunity or a new finding. And I'd love to see that. And if we can help you to determine what you have, we'd be grateful to do that.
And we could even add in there too, if they may have another type of coin that they'd like us to put a little bit more of a deep dive into, bring clarity to, that maybe there's some cloudiness around whether it's valuable or not.
See, you're saying that because you're not the guy who gets the Google messages with 1,000 pictures every day saying, what's this worth? And you can't even tell what the coin in the photo is.
You're my human filter.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, with that, guys, I hope you appreciated this week's episode. We do encourage you to engage in the comments below. Let us know what you're thinking. We're always trying to come up with ideas that are going to be appealing and educational for you, bring you value in the community. And with that, we appreciate everything.
Happy 4th.
Happy 4th.